Joining us now to take a closer look at this is Illinois Democratic Congressman Krishnamorthi. He sits on the Oversight and Intelligence Committees, both of them, and we normally talk at a distance, so it's a real treat to have you here in New York with us.
It's great to be here, Ali.
You're a busy guy. You're on 2 of the 3 committees that are really leading the charge in Congress in trying to get information about Russian interference in the election, what the administration and the campaign had to do with Russia, if anything, and now basic things like requests for information that you're getting pushback on from the administration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to put things in context, we are not a monarchy or dictatorship. We are a democracy, and Congress has to act as a check and balance on the president. And in November, the people overwhelmingly elected us to be in the majority precisely because of that. So when the president basically refuses to produce documents in response to document requests, I believe it's an affront to our democracy.
This is, as we said, it's part of a series of investigations that the House has gotten into. Let's talk about what they are, just so we can remind our viewers what's happened since you guys have taken office in January. The House Judiciary Committee is investigating potential obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power by the president and his associates. Intelligence Committee wants to know what President Trump's associates knew about Russian interference in the 2016 election. The House Oversight Committee is investigating a wide range of issues, including the issuing of security clearances to White House staff and ethics and transparency. And I didn't mention this one. The House Financial Services Committee is looking into the president's relationship with Deutsche Bank, which was the subject a few days ago of a long New York Times piece. What do Americans need to understand about these investigations versus the Mueller investigation?
Well, as you can tell from the scope of these investigations, they may go beyond what Bob Mueller has been tasked with. Just as an example, Bob Mueller, it appears, may not have gotten too much into the money laundering issue, but that is something that is, very important to understanding whether the president or his associates are potentially vulnerable to leverage or manipulation by foreign adversaries.
Adam Schiff of the Intel Committee says he wants people to be careful because while there seemed to be some evidence that the president may have done some things in the campaign, including the payoffs for which Michael Cohen has been convicted, he wants to know whether the president is subject to any foreign influence now. Now, some of that is emoluments, whether people are buying hotel rooms and getting anything in for doing that. But he wants to know about these vulnerabilities and whether they affect the governance and the decisions made by this administration.
Absolutely. And one of the things that is at the basis of our concern, for instance, about Jared Kushner, the reason why we don't want him to have access to top secret materials is because of his tremendous financial vulnerabilities, and those extend as well to some of the Trump family. But in Jared Kushner's case, now that we hear that he's using WhatsApp potentially as a communications device with foreign leaders, some of my constituents are saying, what's up with the WhatsApp?
Yeah.
What types of material are being communicated in such messaging service to foreign leaders? And that's why we were concerned about his top secret clearance in the first place.
Your Republican colleagues were very concerned for a time about Hillary Clinton's use of a private server for emails.
Right.
Are they sufficiently concerned about this, that their administration officials using methods of communicating that we may not be able to have records or access to?
Surprise, surprise. I'm not hearing that outrage from my Republican colleagues. I spent 2 years on the Oversight Committee in the minority participating in their investigation of Hillary Clinton's servers. Now we're hearing about a similar use of private servers by members of the Trump family. I wonder if they're going to ask for a similar investigation. In any case, from our standpoint, we have to know exactly what was communicated because of all the other concerns with security clearance issues and so forth.
What do you see? How does this play out? Because on one hand, we've got a presidential campaign. We've also got the Mueller investigation and the various other legal investigations underway. And then you've got these 4 different investigations going on in Congress. For American people who are seeking some redress or some satisfaction about what has gone wrong here with this administration and the way it's running, what do you tell people will happen at the end of this?
Well, I played a modest role as a prosecutor in Illinois, but one of the things we learned is you investigate and then you prosecute. We're still in the investigatory process now, but one thing is clear. 34 people have been indicted as part of the Mueller probe. 17 investigations are happening outside of Congress. 8 cabinet secretaries have actually had ethics allegations lodged against them, and 5 people have gone to prison, chief aides of Donald Trump. So I think that when people say that there's a witch hunt or this is all a hoax, I think they're wrong. I think we have to continue the investigation because clearly there's a lot of smoke here, and we have to find out if there's fire.
Do you pushback, though, from your constituents? You know, the president said yesterday, my voters don't get it about the Mueller investigation, that some guy, I think he said, comes out of the blue and conducts an investigation. I mean, Robert Mueller is neither out of the blue, and the president is not the president of his voters. He's the president of everybody. But he is creating a narrative that this is out of nowhere, that it's entirely political. That works its way through to some Americans.
Perhaps to some. But I think the reason why the American people overwhelmingly elected us to be in the majority was to serve as a check and balance on the Trump administration. They're worried about a culture of corruption that has gripped the Trump White House, and I don't think that they want us to stop with our investigation. In fact, a recent poll showed that they thought that we were actually conducting ourselves properly with regard to these different probes. I think we should continue until we get to the bottom of what happened.
Are you worried, though, because there's some sense that the president's mantra works and that an increasing number of people are thinking that, you know, there may not be the legitimacy to the Mueller probe? It's sort of fascinating because there's no other reason why anybody would think that except for the fact that the president goes on long sustained attacks of the of this investigation.
Well, that's a very interesting point. The other interesting point is that, you know, the fact that he would not turn over one single page or one single document in response to all those document requests.
The Judiciary Committee requests.
Yes, as well as Chairman Cummings. Chairman Cummings is one of the most reasonable, patient people you'll ever meet in Congress. The fact that they don't respond to even one single request begs the question, why? What are they hiding? Why are they concealing this information?
I'm just hearing from my executive producer that Elijah Cummings has also sent a letter to the CEO of Purdue Pharma asking for documents about marketing of OxyContin. This is another issue that your constituents have expressed concern about.
Yes, sir. You know, basically, the opioid crisis is gripping every part of America, including in my district in Illinois. And so the real question is, did some of these pharmaceutical makers, especially the ones who produce these opioids, know the risks of addiction associated with those opioids and still marketed them in a way that would get people hooked? That's a big question, among others.
All right. Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ali.
Congressman Roger Krishnamoorthi is a Democrat of Illinois. He is a member of the